Ironically, one of the planes Saburo Sakai had been sent to protect had probably saved his life. Having survived his battle with Pug Sutherland, Sakai could have turned for home. Instead, he went looking for more wildcats to engage.
Far in the distance, he saw 8 dots, and thinking they were fighters, he just pulled away from his wingmen and he just opened full throttle and he went after him. And when he was about, 300 yards, he realized, uh-oh, these are dive bombers and they have tail gunners pointed at him. So it was too late to turn back. And he opened up with everything he had right through the formation. And that's when he got hit. One of the tail gunners, he actually was so close that he saw Sakai's face. He saw Sakai go back in his seat like that, and it was like a flash on a movie screen, boom, and he was gone.
I blinked several times. What was wrong? Everything was so red. A wild panicky thought gripped me. I might be blind. Then I shifted my feet to the rudder bar. Only my right foot moved, and the zero skidded as the bar went down. My whole left side seemed to be paralyzed.
Sakai's plane rolls over and drops into a dive. Blood from his head wound drips into his eyes, and a red film obscures his vision. But tears of pain wash the blood away, and Sakai manages to pull out of the dive before he hits the ground.
When I interviewed Sakai, he showed me his flight goggles.
Keeping the Zero airborne will now become the most formidable endurance test he has ever faced.
The bullet actually entered his head just above his right eye and smashed the rim of his goggles. And it actually exited in the back of his head. It's quite apparent if you actually take the helmet in your hand, the leather helmet, and see where the entry and the exit was.
So it went through his skull?
It went clean through his brain. And it's a miracle that he wasn't instantly killed. The fact that it smashed the windscreen as it came through slowed the bullet down just enough that it didn't kill him. Instantly, the entire left side of his body is paralyzed. He can't move his left arm, he can't move his left leg.
To keep from lapsing into unconsciousness, Sakai jolts himself awake by irritating his wounds. He is so convinced his life is over, he decides to go out in a kamikaze blaze of glory.
There was a period of time when he flew back and forth trying to look for enemy ships to crash into. And so he would fly this way and then turn around, and he would kind of zigzag a little bit.
If I must die, at least I could go out as a samurai. My death would take the enemy with me. A ship. I needed an enemy ship.
But then finally he told me that he saw a vision of his mother saying, "Son, wake up, get a hold of yourself. Point your zero in this direction." So he said he pointed his zero in this one certain direction and just prayed that he would make it home.
I don't think it's easy to appreciate that epic feat of airmanship that took place with this guy with no navigation instruments, no radio, other than a compass. And a bullet through his head is just an astounding achievement.
It's one of the epic flights in aviation history.
After almost 5 hours and running on fumes, Sakai finally makes it back to his base in Rabaul. Blind in one eye and barely conscious, he almost crashes as he lands, but manages to file his report before collapsing on the runway. Even though Saburo Sakai and Pug Sutherland both suffered life-threatening injuries during their dogfight, both recovered and returned to combat. Though he only had use of one eye, Sakai became the most famous ace in the Imperial Japanese Navy, credited with shooting down a total of 64 Allied planes. Pug also went on to great success, and by the end of the war, he had earned himself the Navy's Distinguished Flying Cross. Post-war, he returned to the Naval Academy and became a flight instructor. In 1949, James Pug Sutherland was killed in an accident while taking off from a carrier. Sakai wasn't allowed to keep flying after the war. The Allies kept him grounded. And after stepping out of his Zero for the last time in August 1945, he vowed never to kill another living creature, not even a mosquito. He became a practicing Buddhist and sought to reconcile with the Americans he had once fought. He even met with Harold Jones, the rear gunner who had shot him in the head after his battle with Sutherland. Saburo Sakai died of a heart attack in 2000. He was 84. Although Pug and Sakai never met, their names would forever be linked in the annals of history. Their battle on August 7, 1942, would be remembered as a turning point in the war. The American capture of the airstrip on Guadalcanal stemmed the Japanese advance, and in the following months, the Wildcat pilots developed increasingly successful tactics to overcome the faster and more agile Zeros. By the end of the Guadalcanal campaign, 42 Japanese Zeros had been shot down, compared to 41 U.S. Wildcats. Among all the famous World War II dogfights, Pug Sutherland versus Saburo Sakai has remained perhaps the most exhilarating example of the courage and skill of the true fighter ace.